Last speaker of tonight, and thanks guys, you've been an amazing audience. This has been a great Ignite. I really appreciate everyone's attention. Let's bring it in for this last speaker. It's Lindsey, oh my god, I'm gonna screw it up. Scannapieco? Did I get that? Okay. Lindsey Scannapieco is the founder of Scout, and she is a native is that right? A native Philadelphian who lives in South Philly? That's right? Okay. And loves biking around and finding like ridiculously cheap flights to Europe, if I'm remembering correctly. So let's bring her up for her talk on schools closed forever.
All right, guys, so I'm here to end out the night on a particularly sad note, which is about school closings, which is not a fun topic. So I'm here to talk about the reality of school closings, which is that they're happening, not just in Philadelphia, but across the country. We had a ton of schools being built between 1910 and between 1910 and 1940, we had a ton of schools being built. A lot of reasons for that. One, we had a large initiative for civic building projects, a lot of that through the WPA, Public Works Administration. We had a lot of immigration to the country. We also had a lot of changes in child labor laws. So a lot of kids were going to school instead of the factory, all good things. But what that meant is that in the city of Philadelphia, for example, we had peak population in 1950 at 2 million people. Since then, we've lost about 25% of the population. It's growing again, but we're not even in the lead in this national problem, for better and for worse. So Detroit closed over 120 schools, Philadelphia closed 32. Schools are hard to reuse. They are big buildings, they occupy centerpieces in our community, but they are built so you cannot look in and see children. They are built to have insular architecture, they are not generous, they are not public-facing buildings. They have gang bathrooms, great for gossip, hard for conversion. Turns out if you want to make it residential, you have to build all new bathrooms. Very expensive, only in some neighborhoods does that work. I also learned a term for pee shyness for this talk, but I don't remember it, so skip. Hallway loss factor. So we have 14-foot wide hallways in Bach. That means 30% of our space is space that you cannot rent necessarily, but you also have to heat, clean, do maintenance on. Really challenging. So who here liked high school? Well, screw you guys. We're the rest of us. Going into a high school can be very traumatic. There's a lot of emotion tied to it. I think we need to acknowledge that there's a lot of memory that comes to schools. And for me, those weren't always positive, so I'm living that each and every day. In addition, it's an old building. Old buildings are just expensive. We have old pipes. They've been there for over 75 years. They don't always cooperate. I think there's some realities of old buildings that need to be acknowledged. So what do you do with all of these things? How do you make this work? And so I'm here tonight to talk about a couple examples, not just the project I'm working on, but some other projects that I've seen, where I think they've really allowed for opportunities of openness, for possibility, and to the extent that experimentation is possible. And so I wanted to share them with everybody because, to be honest, I thought it was more interesting to look at where we sit in the context of global examples. So what happens most of the time when a school closes? 50% of them get reused for educational uses. That's great. School gets used as a school. Fantastic. 10% of the time, it gets turned into condos, maybe different. And so the first example I'm going to show is in Australia, at Collingwood Arts Precinct. This is super interesting. It was an old school that was bought by the government, put into a non-profit to preserve affordable workspace in Melbourne, which is a city that's extremely expensive. But this has been put into a non-profit to entirely preserve it as affordable space. This is a wild one. This is called D-School. They opened a nightclub in the basement. The Amsterdam government actually allowed the largest nightclub producer in Amsterdam to take on this lease temporarily for 3 years, and they opened a 24-hour nightclub. You could go into a lock-in on a weekend. This is Old Paradise Yard. It was closed about 20 years ago, became a Tibetan Buddhist center, and is now home to 25 different businesses reusing the old classrooms in their existing form. This is one of my favorite examples. This is by Theaster Gates in the south side of Chicago. He's somebody I very much look up to. He's turning this into a center for job education and training, working with Fallen Ash Wood and a mill center for opportunities for revenue back to that neighborhood and the city of Chicago. So this is Bach. So this is the 340,000 square foot beast/baby that I get to work on every day, and some other people in this house get to work on every day. And so It closed in 2013, is now home to 160 different types of tenants. So I'm just going to show you a few of them. Our approach is very light touch. It's about using the space as it exists, acknowledging the infrastructure where it works. So this is, for example, an eyeglass maker occupying what is pretty much a closet. This is a hairdressing salon that's in the old nursing wing. We have a wholesale bakery, for example, called Machine Shop Boulangerie. They got their name because they're in the old machine shop, because they came to us, they said, I need a lot of electric, I need concrete floors. We said, we know the classroom for you. So it's very much about matchmaking. We also have the bar, people probably best know us for that, and a restaurant. And these are also an important piece of the ecosystem, because I think it is important that the ecosystem works. That's the one way that we can preserve affordability in this city. And so the bar is quite helpful. We have 75,000 visitors through a year, which is important. We have a lot of events that bring people into the building. And I think having elements for people to come in and just be able to explore or learn or see this kind of quirky school and what might be possible is important. Today, 75% of our tenants live in South Philadelphia. That's super important to us. 48% of the businesses are women-owned. The city average is 17%. And a shout out to one of my favorite women, Jane Jacobs. She says new ideas must use old buildings. And I think that's because old buildings are typically overlooked. But age should not determine the desirability of a building. It shouldn't. And so I think that old buildings provide a lot of opportunity for openness, experimentation, and possibility. So with that, although I hope we don't have more schools, we should not have more closed schools. If you find yourself in a situation of a closed school, there's some interesting ideas about what to do with them.